Welcome to the On Stage podcast, where we interview musicians and members of the entertainment community. Everyone, we have Bruce Nielsen here on the platform, and he's the main songwriter for the Immaculate Crows, and we'll discuss that in a minute. So they had a second album that came out last year, 2023, called Zombie, and it came out August 16th. So we're going to have everything linked down below, all his music, Spotify. And so, but I'm so looking forward to speaking to you again, Bruce. All our conversations we had online and email that we got to know each other. And everyone also, he's from Brisbane. And actually, while he's saying good morning to me, he's saying good night to me, because literally it's 10:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. And I'm going to ask you, Bruce, what are the lottery numbers?
I wouldn't have a clue, Chris.
To those who don't know, can you give us a little bit of a background who the amazing Bruce Nielsen from Immaculate Crows are, just to give everyone an idea of what you do?
Okay, well, I played back in the 80s, basically from around November 81 through to May 85. I started and named three different bands. The Immaculate Crows was the first and the last, because I did leave them at one stage, and then we came back together for a brief period of time, and then after that I just stopped performing completely. Basically, because there was too many disappointments at the time. There was too many missed chances and whatever else, and I met my wife Carolyn back in those days as well, and decided to put all my energies into having a life with her. We're still together, and Carolyn's heavily involved in the music nowadays as well. So basically, didn't do anything musically until 2004. I did try to get a band together unsuccessfully in 2004, which I won't go into, but it was an absolute thorough disaster. And that only hardened my feelings about bands, I guess. And so nothing was happening creatively at all for a long, long time until 2019, when I thought about the few recordings I'd done back in the 80s that were never released commercially. And I thought, well, I wonder if they're still viable, and maybe I should release them. So that's the first thing I did. So it took me ages to find an engineer who actually had the old equipment required to actually master the old reel-to-reel tapes that I had. And I left it so long that he actually found that most of them were not in great shape, unfortunately. We did 4 recordings back in the 80s. That was it. There was a 4-track session in a little hall we did in June 1982. There was 2 songs. One was called In the City. The other one was called Dingo. And then we did I would say was a commercial recording. Well, we paid for it anyways, in September 82, and that was a rehash of Dingo and another song, Psychedelic Girl. Now, Dingo and Psychedelic Girl were actually, we gave a copy of them to our local community station, 4ZZZ, and they were massively played. I don't know how long they were played for, but it seemed that every day you listen, you could hear those 2 songs getting played. So we were pretty popular with ZZZ for a period of time, and there was even talk of us supporting big bands like Midnight Oil, because ZZZ used to arrange gigs and whatever else. Wow. So things were looking rosy until our drummer left and left us in the lurch, and that's when the band fell apart, and I ended up leaving because the replacement drummer, I won't say too much, but It just wasn't fun playing after that, and I wrote a range of different types of songs, and the more melodic ones, sensitive ones, were absolutely they sounded absolutely bloody shocking. So I just got sick of it and started another band, which was more punk, I suppose, Insurrection, and another one after that called the Popes, who were pretty full on punk, I suppose. So, anyways, that aside, managed to get out the old 80s recordings because I did have copies of them on cassette tapes. So one was viable anyway. Psychedelic Girl was still pretty intact. Dingo wasn't too bad. And In the City had a little bit of feed on it from because I used to use a lot of reverb back in the days, and the reverb was feeding through on the cassette tape copy that I had. But nonetheless, people seem to like it. Every now and then, someone seems to have a listen to it. And what was the other one? Last one we did was called Family Life, which is a song that I did with all the bands I was in, same as Psychedelic Girl. And that one we got some free recording time with an engineer student mastering it. In the studio where there was a student they wanted to play around with a band, and we had a little bit of free time, but right towards the end of the session, when I did my guitar solo, the guitar went out of tune at a critical moment right at the very end of the song, and all I had left was a recording of that they gave us later on, but they wouldn't let us have any more time. That was really frustrating because the rest of the song sounded really good. So years later, Carolyn, in 2019, she used software called Audacity and managed to play around with the ending. That was her first attempt at doing mixing engineering, whatever you want to call it, producing. And she played around with Audacity on the end of this song, and she actually turned it into something that sounded really good. So the end of Family Life. When you hear that, you'll know that was done in 2019, but the rest was done back in '85.
Wow.
So, anyways, that sort of inspired me to get back into doing something again. So, I started looking up the old members of the band, and I found out that one of the original singers had died, which was really sad. David Page, who sang on most
Mhm.
of the old recordings, except
That's
for
sad.
Family Life. Yeah, and he committed suicide, unfortunately, as well. I found out. I don't know what's happening in his life because he was having a lot of success. He
He
was
died in
like musical director
2016.
for
Yeah.
an indigenous dance troupe. I think they're called Bangara dance troupe, and so he was a musical director for them. So everything seemed to be going well for him, but maybe something in his personal life. I don't think anyone will really know what made him do it. But that was really sad because David had been a bit of a pop star when he was a teenager, around 13, 14. He had a brief period of time where he was on a lot of big shows in Australia, and
Wow.
and he also was the first Australian to have a recording contract with the famous Tamla
Really?
label. Yeah. But once his voice broke, no one wanted to know him. So I think he sort of faded from the scene and re-emerged
Oh, wow.
in '82 when we Need the Singer. He auditioned and he was by far the better one of the few that turned up, and we were lucky to have him for the period of time that we had him. And he was a very talented young guy. But anyways, heading back to the present. So I did find Mark Hocknell on the internet. He was the second guitarist to join the Immaculate Crows, and very good guitarist as well. I found that he had been releasing his own instrumental music.
Wow.
So there was a phone number for him on the internet. It's very easy to contact. So I rang him up and he said,
Really? They had a
"Yeah," and
phone
he said,
number. Wow.
yeah, because he's a successful businessman as well, you know. So
Oh, neat.
music's his passion, but obviously it's not going to feed him. So
Oh,
he's
yeah.
got his own business going and doing very well on that. And so I got together with Mark, and he brought his gear over and showed me how easy it was to record tracks on his gear, where he was using what was called GarageBand. And the only problem was that we could get all the instrumental tracks down, but there was no way of recording vocals. So that's when Carolyn got dragged into it all. So we realised that
Come here.
we couldn't afford the hire a studio. That was just out of the question. So we just weren't financial enough. So as well as that, I don't think I would have liked other people trying to give me direction. I'm pretty stubborn when it comes to my music. No one really tells me what to do whatsoever. If anything, I tell other people what to do, but not too much of that. But anyways, so Mark came over with his recording gear, and it was for a period of time. It was going quite seamlessly. Carolyn and I invested in a whole lot of home recording gear, and Carolyn took it very seriously. And before we knew it, she was recording vocalists.
Wow.
And and we had a range of vocalists coming over at different times, and still do. And
Really awesome.
so ever since I don't know when it was, sometime in 2019 or 2020, we started getting recordings out again, and the first 15 of them were actually in partnership with Mark, where he co-produced all the tracks with Carolyn. Mark and I played on them all. Carolyn recorded the vocals, and then she did the mix, and then we found the guy to do the mastering that we've been using up until now. I think he's over in Germany, a Turkish guy called Furkan Gulis. And so that's the way it was going until Mark decided to part ways. And so he's still doing his thing. I think he's up to 4 albums now of instrumental guitar music he's got out.
Oh, wow.
And so basically when Mark left, we're in a bit of a conundrum. How are we going to get by now? Because that's when Carolyn really had to buckle down and really learn how to use a digital audio workstation, and she's done it really remarkably well. If anything,
That's
in the
awesome.
short period of time we've been doing it,
Wow.
Carolyn amazes me how seriously she applies herself. She's in a little training group, and she's always doing research and whatever else. And with the primitive equipment we've got, I'm amazed at how good the audio is, So I'm pretty happy about that.
Well,
So
there's something good about marriage, isn't there?
What's that? Sorry?
There's something good about marriage.
I won't say anything. She might hear me. So, anyways, only kidding. So eventually Carolyn got the hang of it, and so we do everything now. So basically, what we've morphed into is I call it a collective. It's not a band; it's a collective. So I write all the songs as I always have, and arrange the songs as I always have. That's always been the way. And Carolyn basically does all the production. But when we produce tracks, I sit down with her and basically guide her. So I have a map of the song. I usually start with the chord progressions for the entire song, and we'll start with the intro and just do everything methodically. Just say it's so many bars and these chords, and let's try some inversion chords, substitute chords, whatever else. Carolyn has no musical knowledge whatsoever, but as she's been really getting into the producing and mixing side of things, she's actually beginning to put her own imprint onto some of the songs as well as we go on.
Wow.
And occasionally she comes up with some good ideas, and she's also my harshest critic, like occasionally she'll say, oh, I don't like that guitar solo, and frustrates the hell out of me, but she's generally right. So
wow.
I'll end up repeating it and whatever else until we have something we're both happy with.
Now, Bruce, you better watch it, because your wife might go solo one day and kick you to the side.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's what the Immaculate Crows are nowadays. And I've been extremely lucky to come across whole range of really dynamic and interesting singers. So I'm quite blessed. Really, as far as getting the music out there, things have been going pretty nicely. And I had a fairly new singer, young guy. He actually rang me up. Usually, I'm chasing people. I look at ads in the local musicians wanted, and if I see anybody that looks like they want to do something, everyone else is knocking them back or whatever. I usually end up picking them up, and they end up. I sort of wonder why were people knocking these people back? You know, maybe because of their age or whatever. Because everyone I've come across, really, they all have something to offer. You know, and but I was surprised when I had a phone call one Sunday night. A young guy rang me up and said, "Are you still looking for singers?" He said he had an ad going back to 2021 where I was advertising for people. I thought, how would you even still have a copy of an ad? But anyway, that aside, I said, yes, as it turns out, I don't have any male singers. So if you got something I can hear you on, so he only had one little thing of him when he was at work. He was just sort of singing in this empty room, and I thought, gee, this guy's got an interesting voice. I've got to hear him out. So he's come over and only done one song so far, but he was absolutely pitch perfect, and he's got a very beautiful voice, and we'll be doing a lot of stuff with him.
Is that
And
Peter
I've met a couple of
McCleary?
other interesting. What's that, mate?
Is that Peter
Oh, his
McCleary?
name's Brandon Webb, by the way.
Oh, okay.
He's on one of the recent songs, Torn in Two. That's the only one he's on at the moment. But I'm hoping to feature him on a duet situation, like a country folk song later in the year, possibly. I just have to find a female singer that will suit the song. I'm thinking of Daphne at the moment. I think she would probably fit the bill. Yeah, so that's right. And I came across a very young, talented trumper. It's like a young Miles Davis. This guy's only 19, and he's studying at the Conservatorium of Music. And I met him through another talented person, Colleen South, who I actually met at a coffee shop. She was playing ukulele, and I thought,
Wow.
God, she's it's not too bad. And once I got to know her, I found out she plays piano, accordion, and piano as well, and sings. So I got her over to play piano accordion on the latest release, actually, My Sister and Me, and it just really makes that song. It just adds a different dimension to it. So I'll be featuring her in the future too, and she'll be playing. She doesn't know this yet, but I have her in mind to play a ukulele introduction on a song, and then play piano accordion on the rest of it. And the young trump I mentioned, his name is Sam Ryan. He doesn't know this yet either, but he'll probably be playing a lot of trumpet on that song as well. He did over. He's only come over once so far, one session, and he played on 3 different songs, which haven't been released yet. But one of them will be the next release. That'll be the first time you'll hear him. This guy is super talented. So I asked him about what trumpet does he like, because I thought he's only young, maybe he hasn't heard too much or know too much about some of the greats. But honestly, this guy, when he rolled off the names, I thought this guy knows what he's on about, you know. So knowing that, when we did one song, I said to him, "What I want for this song is think of Louis Armstrong when you're playing that." So he got that feel down straight away.
That's
And
perfect.
another one I said, think of Miles Davis. Once again, he got the feel down. And the other one I
Wow.
said, think of Marsalis. Once again, this guy's one to watch, and I think he's got a big future. So there's
That's
quite a
funny.
few releases in the pipeline at the moment. The only
Mhm.
thing that's holding us back at the moment is for the last release, we actually tried artificial intelligence for the mastering.
Oh no. You went to the evil
Yeah,
side.
I know it sounds evil, doesn't it?
It's
It's like putting
evil.
actual people out of work. It's a nasty concept,
I
but
know. Yes.
we're pretty poor, so we're trying to we're trying to survive, you know, and be able to do the stuff and have the means to do it. and it's been costing us a couple $100, to get the mastering done up to now. And this was advertised as a first one was free, so we couldn't really knock it back. So it was our distributor who was advertising it. So we gave it a go, and when I listened to the product, after Carolyn did a research, it only literally took her 15 minutes to get the mastered WAV file out ready. And when I listened to it, I thought, God, that's no different to what we've been paying for. Honestly, the product was just
Wow.
spot on. So I don't know. So we may be using it in the future, but we've got to get embedding sorted out first. So embedding, you probably don't know what that means, but it just means you need some critical data put on your the music files before you send them out. And with the WAV file, as it stands, the artificial intelligence one, I'm not sure if there's any embedding data on it, because they say they don't do that. So I'm asking our distributor if they do it. So once I get the answer to that, then I'll start rolling out some of the other releases.
I don't know, like Bruce. The now I know AI can be used for good. Like for instance, the new Beatles tune "Now and Then," which is supposed to be the last
Yeah,
Beatles song.
you
They
haven't
used
heard that one, I
AI.
know about.
Yeah, they used AI to remove the John Lennon vocals from the instrument and separate them, and they made this beautiful song. Yes, through AI.
Mm.
Well, yeah, I can understand that if you have to use it, you have to use it. But I hope it doesn't end up being like Terminator 2 and Miles Dyson and
Well,
AI.
well, when you think about it, Chris, I mean, look at the great science fiction writers like H.G. Wells and people,
Yeah.
Orson Welles, whatever his name was. All you need is an idea, and someone will eventually make that idea into a reality. So science fiction, only science fiction at a certain point in time, and with enough scientific minds or creative minds working on
Right.
something, it can become a reality. And as you said, Terminator could become a real thing. When I was a kid, I used to get this comic called Magnus Robot Fight, and that was basically the whole concept of Terminator in a comic book form, like a long,
I,
long time ago.
yeah, I mean, I know that there was a hologram of Michael Jackson, and then I know that ABBA, they came up with this hologram version of themselves in the 70s, and they had a concert. So they kind of like AI is good and AI is bad because in the end, you're going to be talking to someone on a video chat and you're going to think it's Bruce Nielsen when it's actually Joe Blow across the street using your face. You don't know. So I don't trust it, but it can be used for good. And yeah, so I wish you success with that. I want to ask you. So I know that Carolyn is now production, but I want to talk about your other musicians like Peter Cleary, Melissa Grace, and Nikki Steel. How did you find
Hmm.
them?
Um, well, Peter Cleary was a workmate. He was actually a songwriter himself, and he never got any products out. But for a period of time, he would come over here, and this is before I knew how to. I was doing any recordings myself, and he'd just come over with his guitar, and we'd have a bit of a jam every now and some of his songs, and sometimes I'd play some of mine. And so the first song we recorded in 2020, whatever it was "She's a Mystery," which
Hmm.
was actually an old Immaculate Crows psychedelic song, that one of the very first ones we ever did, but we didn't stay with it very long. We only played for a short period of time. But anyways, I got Peter to sing on that one. But then Peter went his own separate ways.
Hmm.
Um, so that was his only contribution to the recordings, just that one song. Now the next song we did, well, I think was "Business Girl," and on that one, I think I went to Musicians Wanted, and was looking for a female singer. I already knew Nikki Steel, who will be singing on a lot of the upcoming releases. Actually, there'll be three. Now, let me think. No, two coming up with her singing on them. She's already singing on the latest one, My Sister and Me. She sang on one of the ones on the last album,
I love that new
Broken
single.
Heart. And yeah, and on our first recording, or no, second recording, sorry, I got Nikki to turn up, and I got this other lady that I got through Musicians Wanted to turn up, Melissa Price Stevens, who I hadn't heard before in my life, but she had choir. She'd been singing in the choir and some sort of covers band or something else, so she had some singing experience. But I didn't know what she sounded like. So, anyways, it was a bit of a gamble. So I had Nikki, who is a very seasoned performer. She's been singing since I've known her.
Nice.
And when we're talking about singing, I'm talking about overseas, singing with a full orchestra, singing jazz standards and whatever else. So she sung a range of music. And even though she's a lot older now, Nikki's still got a fantastic voice. And she's a very professional person. Like when she comes over, she's well rehearsed, and I
Wow.
don't have to get her back at all. But anyways, they both turned up, and it was like a bit of a standoff. So I just assumed Nikki would, because of her experience, would be able to do the lead vocal. But as it turned out, she couldn't. So it was really embarrassing because she obviously looked perplexed, and I thought, oh God, this is terrible. I don't want to embarrass Nikki because she's so valuable. And
Hmm.
so I said to Melissa, who I hadn't heard at this stage, she was just sitting there. I said, okay, Melissa, let's see what you're like. And Melissa got it spot on. So here's poor Nikki sitting there thinking, oh, God, how am I going to contribute? So I said to Nikki, I said, just try the chorus and see what you like in the chorus. Sure enough, she was spot on. And then they
Yeah.
started harmonising together. This is on Business Girl, that I think was the second release we put out. And it was just so fantastic. And the good thing about that was Nikki being the professional that she is, and with the experience that she's got, um, she made she made sure that we did several takes of certain parts, like the end of the song, for example, which is pretty critical. And she just wanted to be as perfect as possible, and that's pretty much the way it ended up. The vocals on that song, I'm very super impressed with. I still like them. So that's the way that one went. But in the same session, we had already recorded all the tracks for "She's a Mystery" that Peter sang on. But I thought it'd be really good to have a strong chorus, and so I said to the two of them, the chorus is really simple. Just she's a mystery, you know. It's very, very simple stuff. But um, so they sort of did it like they were panning the vocals. So one would sing a line, the other one would sort of echo the line, and it was just absolutely spot on. It really made that song, to be honest. There's so many good elements about that song, and some of the really good guitar on it too. Mark played. That's the first time I think that I really realised that Mark was an exceptionally good guitarist when he wanted to be. You know, because when
Nice.
he played in the Immaculate Crows, I was already
Hmm.
playing the lead, and I just want someone to slot into the rhythm role.
Of
And there was only
course.
one song I ever tried Mark on, No Turning back in the day. See what he was like at playing solo, and I remember he was pretty good on that solo too. But so, anyways, what Mark would do when we were working together, we would get the tracks down, and sometimes he wouldn't play the solos live, and Mark would then send me an MP3 and with he'd say, "Oh, what do you think of this guitar solo?" And when I listened to his guitar solo that he did for "She's a Mystery," I thought, "Bloody hell, I've got to have that," you know. Mark's solo was just so good.
It's
So
sort of like
just had
the
so
like
I
take
did the
another
first
take.
roll on that one, and then right at the end, the fade out. I actually did a double track solo to start it off, and
Hmm.
then Mark comes in after that, and with a really, really full on solo, and he does this beautiful little bit right at the very end of the song. it sounds really eerie, very sci-fi, and I just kept on playing my little riff in the background as well, and with the girls' chorus, sort of a dry version of that in the background as well. Yeah, so that song, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. Uh, was there anyone else you wanted to talk about? Any other singers?
That was actually pretty awesome about that. I can imagine him saying, "Yeah, Bruce, listen to this guitar solo." And you're like, "Wait a minute," and you're like, "That sounds a lot like Thunderstruck." No, just I can imagine that.
No, when I
Um,
realised how talented Mark had become, because it was a long time, since
wow,
I'd been hearing him and whatever else, and he'd really progressed. Um, yeah, so he contributed some pretty good work for the time we were together.
that is amazing, amazing, Bruce. Everyone, you gotta listen to that song, "Two Time Loser" and "Shy Girl." They have a new song called "My Sister and Me." Now we're gonna talk about that single in a moment. Um,
Okay.
when when you got new musicians to be part of this new band, what about your original drummer Chris Allen? Like, did he ever contact you and say, "Hey, we
No,
got the new band
no,
together. Why don't?"
we ended on bad terms, Chris.
Oh
That's why I
wow,
left the band. Yeah, we Chris was he did have psychological problems, and I was living in the house with Hamish, who was our first singer, and another guy who, well, technically he was our first singer, but probably only for about a week or so. He was a talented artist called Frank Mueller. So, and eventually Carolyn moved in as well. But we had a garage there, and Chris would come over every day and do work in the garage. He was turning it into a room, and the idea was that he would live there as well. So this went on for a long, long time. Chris
oh
had
wow.
just come over, like a couple of times a week or whatever, and do up this room, but he'd never actually move in. So. Um,
Wow.
so it was funny. Like I was very good friends with Chris and also Hamish, and for some reason Chris thought that he was on the outer or as a friend or something, which was totally untrue. And he had a
Wow.
huge tantrum about it and just said he was leaving the band. So it was just petty rubbish because it was sad because Chris was an exceptionally talented drummer. If I
It's
knew where he
always
was, I would look him up nowadays and just to have a yarn to him to see how he's going. But I couldn't find him, so I did try to find him, but
yeah,
no, I
it's
wouldn't have a clue how to find him.
that's what happens when you have infighting, like for instance, Noel and Liam Gallagher leaving Oasis, and they're brothers.
Yep,
And like you
yep.
have and then you have Hanson, and you've just people who have brothers who are part of the band. It's always an infighting. I'm leaving the band because of this and that. It's ridiculous, but I'm so glad that you have this new
Well, look at the
immaculate.
Beatles. Look at the Beatles. Paul McCartney and John
Yeah,
Lennon.
exactly. Yeah. As you talk about that, how did you feel about the insurrection and the popes before the Immaculate Crows, and how much did the genre change from one hand to another?
Well, the Immaculate Crows was definitely the first band I started up. When Chris left the band, I think we just rushed to get a drummer because we had a lot of work at the time, and I think we panicked. And I'd have to blame myself because I was like a de facto leader in the band at the time, and we auditioned only a couple of people, and one of them was a 16-year-old girl. In hindsight, I think she would have ended up being a better proposition, even though she had a very basic drum kit and maybe sounded like she was a basic player. Maybe she would have learned quicker or something. But the guy that we got in to replace Chris, all I can say was he was just goddamn awful. I
Oh,
don't know what made us grab him in the first place, but
hmm.
um, it just got to the stage where I just didn't enjoy practicing or playing because we weren't a one-dimensional band. We had songs of all different descriptions, melodic songs, punk songs, whatever else. And he was okay with the thrush one, but when it came to anything that required a bit of subtlety and sensitivity and more than basic ability. He just couldn't cut it, um, and I had this other person that was pressuring me to keep him and saying he was
Mm.
acting like a pseudo manager and saying, if you get rid of him, I won't get you any work. Not that he was getting us any work anyway, but that was
Yeah.
coming our way independent of
Wow.
him. But anyways,
Ridiculous.
yeah, so it was that's why I left the band. I don't know if it was a good decision or not. I think in hindsight, if I had basically just stuck to my guns and said, "You've got to go," and maybe it would have ended up differently. But anyways, I left, started up another band, which was Insurrection. I named that band. I named all the bands. It was Insurrection and the Popes after them. But Insurrection, um, there was another songwriter in the band, Emmanuel Kiriakidis, who played bass as well. He's a pretty good bass player as well. And one of his songs was exceptional. It was very, very good, called Distorted Reality. Basically, we had a singer called, I think the real name was Debbie Fitch, but she called herself Debris. And she used to hang around and live with skinheads and who I don't have much time
Oh.
for. But
Mm.
anyways, that was a bit problematic because a lot of the skinheads started coming to concerts and they were
Mm.
beating up people and crap
Mm.
like that.
Gee.
But anyways, it came to a bit of a head over, once again, petty stuff. We did a free concert for Triple Z, and the formality was that if you're in the band, you usually were allowed to have someone come with you that didn't have to pay. So I think everyone got in before me. And when I came in, I wanted to sign in Carolyn, and the woman at the door from Triple Z basically said, no, we've let enough free ones in already. And that set me off, put me in a really rotten mood. So here I am, more or less, the major songwriter,
Oh my
guitarist in the band.
goodness.
It is my
Wow.
band. I can't even get my own buddy partner in for free, and we're paying free anyway. So I was in a really rotten mood, and I think I said something about it to Emmanuel, and Emmanuel didn't exactly sound very sympathetic. He said something that sort of set me off, so it sort of went all downhill from there. We played the concert, but I remember it might have been after it or something that we were just walking around, and I don't even know what set it off, but I remember grabbing him by the throat. It was getting a bit physical, and
Wow.
yeah. So anyway, no, that might have been before we played actually. So um,
Mm.
so I don't know. People in the audience, if they saw that happening and saw us playing, they probably think, "What the hell's going on?" But anyways, I did profusely apologise to him. Went around to his place in person and
Mm.
rang him up and whatever else. And a couple of days later, he rang me up and said, "Oh, you're out of the band, and I've taken the name of the band and I've copyrighted it." And so I thought that's charming stuff. I came up with the name, started the band, and I'm kicked out of my
Wow.
own band. So it was an insurrection in reality. So after that, I started up the Popes, and Popes were probably the most punk
I,
new wave, what do you want to
I
call it?
remember
More,
them. Yeah.
yeah, more alternative than any other bands I played in. They were predominantly all my songs except for two that the singer did. One of his songs was once again extremely good. I loved playing on it, but he didn't have much confidence, and literally a day before we had a huge concert coming up. It was at the biggest venue in Brisbane at the time called Festival Hall that
Mm.
all the big bands played at when they came to town, and and we weren't going to get paid for it, but I didn't care. I thought I just want to play at Festival Hall.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah. So anyways, so here we were, last practice session before we were due to play this, and he was freaking out and he's saying, "Oh, I don't think we're ready," and I was just furious, and I was trying to get another bass player into the band as well, because who actually was Brad from the Immaculate Crows, who was an exceptional bass player. It would have been extremely hard to beat. Whereas the guy that was in the Popes, literally had to teach him what to play on every single song. I
Oh.
wanted a creative player, And I was also hoping to eventually get a female in the band to do harmonies and play another instrument or something.
Mm.
But anyways, I told the singer that I wanted to get Brad in. The singer didn't like him because the singer was just he was on the only thing that he was on about was appearances. So he didn't like
Wow.
Brad's physical appearance. So that's why he didn't want to get rid of the guy we already had. But at this last practice session, they all blew up, basically
Mm.
saying, "Oh, I don't think we're ready." And I said, "Of course we're ready." I mean, I'm a pretty confident person. If I don't think we're able to do someone's, something I'm doing is ready, I won't be doing it. No way in the world. But anyways, he was freaking out, which really peed the hell out of me. And then he let fly to the bass player that was trying to get rid of the bass player. A really great time to say that. But believe it or not, we actually turned up at Festival Hall with our 15 songs, and there were thousands of schoolgirls there. That's what it was. It was like an end of year school celebration thing. So all they had was a DJ, us, and them. All these screaming girls, and it was actually I recorded it on a tape cassette, and the recording is really, really terrible, but you do pick up on the vibe of the concert, and a couple of songs there you can actually hear girls screaming it's like a
Mm.
mini Beatles thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we played our 15 songs. There was one of them that we stuffed up the intro to because the bass player myself. I'm not saying it was his fault; it might have been my fault. I don't know, but one of us stuffed up the timing, so we weren't synchronizing. So, but luckily the singer was professional enough to sort of make out that it wasn't a mistake and it was deliberate. So he said, "Oh, no, that's not fast enough." So as though we wanted to play it faster, and then we tried the second time, and luckily we got it on that time, and so we had a break. The DJ did his stuff,
Nice.
and then I don't know if they wanted us to do another set or they had no alternative because there was nothing else happening. So we came out and we played all the same songs again, second time. But honestly, it was well received, but it was a shame that band dissolved because after all the
Mhm.
vitriol that went on the last
Yeah.
practice session, there was no way we could have stayed together. Then I went
Yeah.
back to the Immaculate Crows briefly.
Yeah. Well, which group did you like? The Insurrections or the Popes, or I guess your own group, of course.
To be honest, despite its problems, I think I like the Popes the best. Just
Mm.
musically, because I was the only guitarist, and
Mm.
every other band I've been in, there was always a backup guitarist. But by the time I got into the Popes, in my opinion, I think I was one of the best guitarists in Australia at the time. I can't remember too many other people that
Mm.
was sort of playing the sort of stuff I was playing, to be honest. So I sort of
Yeah.
reached a peak when I was doing some pretty original stuff, and I was quite confident playing by myself, and I had a great guitar as well. The best guitar I've ever had in my life. It was a really great Strat, and so everything was going. No, despite the bass player had to teach everything too. I think if we'd got another bass player and maybe another person in to do backup harmonies or something, that would have been potentially a really great band. But anyways, that's all
Yeah.
in the past.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy story sometimes, and especially of in remembrance of David Page, who passed away. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of musicians out there, like Chester Bennington is one, from Lincoln Park, and I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Hester from Crowded House. He
Yeah,
killed
no, that was incredible. That was extremely soon.
he killed
I think
himself
I
two
think
months
my
before
opinion is
Neil
I
Finn.
felt like
Yeah,
oh sorry?
he killed himself months before Neil Finn decided to bring Crowded House back together in reunion, and
Yeah.
so. But that's terrible that that would happen. Why do you suppose that musicians want to off themselves? Like, how do you deal with your mental health?
Look, when I was younger, to be honest with you, I literally most of my youth, going up to maybe into my late 20s. I suffered chronic depression, to be honest, and I was a severe asthmatic when I was a kid. I mean, talking about really asthma at its worst, it's sort of almost life-threatening.
Hmm.
And because of that, I just sort of opted out of sports and had a huge dip in confidence. And the only thing that kept me together really was listening to music, and then I started writing poetry and eventually got into songwriting. But even now, I have really dark days occasionally where
Hmm.
um, I just think things aren't going that well, and I sort of wonder why the hell am I doing this? And then all of a sudden, there's a review or something that just pops up, and it's really positive, and I think,
Hmm.
oh, maybe it is worth going. So, but
Yeah.
but I don't think musicians are really different to anyone else. Like um, when you look at suicide, there's so many young people that commit suicide. They're not
Yeah.
musicians; they're just young people in the prime of life. Should be in the prime of life that either
Hmm.
getting bullied by other people or they just think life is just doesn't have any meaning for them anymore. I mean, to take your life is a very radical thing to do because
Hmm.
it's not in our DNA normally to want to top ourselves. We might think about it, but to actually take steps to do it's a different proposition.
Wow. And it's kind of interesting. You say you would listen to music, and if you see a review, that then yeah, that's that with me. Like I'm working and suddenly, unless my boss says great job or something, then I'll feel like nothing really makes sense. I'm not depressed or anything. I just want once in a while someone to say you're doing a good job. Like I've gotten some positive reviews about my podcast.
Yeah.
I told one of my guests, um, I wish I could interview better. I wish I gave you those questions differently. He said, "Don't. I think what you did, you interviewed me excellently. You're better than all the other interviews I ever had." And it just boosts my confidence. I'm like, you know what? You made me want to move on. You made me want to go on. So you probably feel the same way. Uh, During those times you were listening to music, what were you listening to? You mind me asking?
When? What period of time?
Well, give me
You're
an
talking about
idea that
now or back then?
yeah.
Are you talking about what I listen to now or back
No,
back in the day?
what
Sort of.
when you were yeah when you were in your state of depression, whatever. What music
Yep.
and songs did you turn to kind of give you
Oh,
that?
okay. Okay. Yep. Well, there was one of my favourite bands at the time was called the Purple Hearts. They were a Brisbane band,
Oh,
and and they had a guitarist called Lobby Lloyd. He's no longer with us, unfortunately, but Lobby was considered to be the first Australian guitar hero. And even
wow.
back in those days, I was back in the 60s, he played some fantastic stuff in the Purple Hearts that was really inspiring. And another other band that really appealed to me at the time was the Yardbirds. Once
Yes,
again, they had some good songs, and
Eric
not
Clapton
that
was
they
in
wrote
there.
that many of their own, but they did have some good songs, and they had three of the best guitarists that have ever
Eric
been playing
Clapton's
in
one
their
of them.
ranks at different stages. Eric
Yeah,
Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page all
yeah.
played in the Yardbirds at different times. And at
Hmm.
one brief moment, Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page played in the band at the same time.
Wow.
There is a little bit of that on Spotify you can find. There is a couple of live albums where you hear Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck playing live, and there
Hmm.
was a couple of studio recordings too. Not that many, but there was Psycho Daisies, which was the B side of an absolutely brilliant single I put out called Happenings 10 years time ago that still remains one of
Wow.
my favourite all time songs. But then again, my brother was turning me on to different music. He's 4 years older than me, and he knew I was depressed and whatever else. He knew,
Hmm.
but he would keep me up to date with new music, and he introduced me to Jimi Hendrix
Hmm.
and Jefferson Airplane, whatever. So they were the early ones. Or there was another one called, or the Paul Butterfield Blues Band when they were
Hmm.
absolutely brilliant when they put out their second album, East West.
Hmm.
I don't know if you know Michael Bloomfield, do you?
Never heard of him. I'll have to look up the other ones that you mentioned,
You'll
but
have
I
to
do
look
know
him
you're
up. Try and remember to listen to East West. It
okay.
was the second album put out by Paul Butterfield Blues Band. It actually had two good guitarists, not just one, two, Elvin Bishop and Michael Bloomfield. And there's two really long instrumentals on that album. One is a version of the Work song, which is an old jazz standard, and Bloomfield's playing on that. I mean, people talk about it, used to talk about Eric Clapton and whatever else, and to be honest, I think Mike Bloomfield was miles ahead of people like Eric Clapton at the time. His concepts were just so advanced in his technique and power and whatever else. Um, and then the other long one on East West, he saw Ravi Shankar playing sitar at Woodstock and was influenced by that. And you can actually hear him trying to play the guitar like a sitar and quite a
Hmm,
long, quite a few segments on East West.
cool.
The playing is it's even now. I think that playing stands up to a lot of the stuff that's around today. To be honest, it's like really early fusion music. So there was them. Then there was another band that called Blues Project that you might have heard of as well. They were they had Al Cooper in the band
Hmm.
and Steve Katz that both were in the early Blood, Sweat and Tears, and they had one album out called it was Live at the Village Go Go or something, right? That is such a good live album. I think it was done about '65 or something, and still now it's just so exciting. They had a great singer then too. He wasn't one of the ones that stayed with them. It was Tommy Flanders, I think, but his singing on it is just so good. So late at night, I'd listen to. There used to be one of the local radio stations used to play a lot of underground stuff, really obscure stuff that was coming mainly from America, like bands like God, the Electric Prunes, and who else? Oh God, 13th Floor Elevators and whatever else. There was a
Hmm.
lot of psychedelic and garage stuff that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. That just used to get played on this late night show, and I used to love listening to that.
Wow. So, Bruce, sorry that you had to go through that when you were growing up and depression, but listening to music certainly perks you up. Can you explain to me why you think getting a Bachelor Arts of Psychology was going to help you? Like, can you tell me more
It
about
did.
that?
It did. Yeah, it did. I think a lot of people that have psychological, psychiatric issues
Mhm.
are drawn to the caring profession. Just like I think a lot of people that have been impacted by loved ones that have had horrible diseases and stuff are drawn to the medical profession. So that was my motivation, I suppose, because I had psychiatric issues and I was still trying to sort out why and how to deal with them, whatever. And it was only when I studied psychology
Mhm.
that sort of came together, and I sort of had coping mechanisms and explanations and whatever else, and that's when I largely got over that. To be honest, then I met Carolyn as well.
Mm.
That made a huge difference as well. Carolyn's a very, very, no, a very positive person.
Oh yeah, having your wife being part of your music and then literally going on her own way and helping out by learning a lot. That's, I hope I find a relationship like that. I'll tell you. Um, but I love the song "My Sister and Me." Now, what was the process of writing that and coming up with the music? Like, for instance, you got lyrics like "You're my sister, your family, we stick like glue, my sister and me." Like amazing, and then you annoy me sometimes, like my three sisters do sometimes. Sorry about that. But can't you see we'll be friends forever, my sister and me? So can you explain to me how how the creative process went with that?
The origins of that song came about through trying to write a song for one of my earliest singers. His name is Sam Wilde. Sam Wilde only she sang on like, "Can't You Hear Me Crying," one of the really early songs, and also "Dolly," which was on the first album. And Sam, in my opinion, is an amazingly talented person. I keep in touch with her, and I'm just hoping that one day we'll be able to get her back because she's got so much to offer.
Mm.
And but anyways, I wrote the song for her because I was talking to her about. No, I think she brought it up that she had a sister who could also sing, a younger sister, and the two of them apparently when they sing together, they're absolutely in tune with each other. So that sounded really exciting. So
Nice.
I, I wrote a song specifically for the two of them to sing. It was supposed to originally be a duet. No, it wasn't that all fay with Sam's family background, family dynamics, and whatever else. I didn't have a bit of knowledge, but it wasn't specifically geared towards Sam's situation. I just thought I'll just write a song about how good it is to have some family member that's close to you, and you have that special relationship. And and that could have been easily called my brother and me, or my mother and me, my father and me, etc. Not everybody has no close family ties. I mean, some people absolutely do not get on at all, with their siblings or whatever. But I think most people do, and it was geared towards the ones that do, that value those special relationships. And so I started writing that in 2021. I think I probably wrote the bulk of it in 2021, and but then Sam dropped out of the picture, so
Mm.
I just kind of couldn't get her to do any more recordings, and she had her own and things that she had to sort out at the time, and still is, I guess. And so that sat on the back burner for a long period of time. It was only in 2023 that I thought, Nikki, she'll be able to do this.
Nikki
And
Steel.
so I offered it to Nikki, and I think before I did, I finished off the song at some time in 2023. You'll find all the credits on Bandcamp where I write specific dates,
Hmm.
when things happened. But it was sometime in 2023 I actually finished that song off. So I came back to that song in 2023, finished it off, and then I met Colleen South, who's the piano accordion player I told you about before, at a local coffee shop. She was playing ukulele actually, and I took my aged mother there, and Colleen was entertaining her, playing various songs on ukulele and singing. And as I got to know Colleen, I found out that she could actually play piano and piano accordion and sing. So, so I thought, my sister and me, I think I might have already had some basic tracks down, and so I put it to her, can you play piano accordion on a country song? And she said, I don't particularly like country songs. I prefer to do blues and jazz or something, but I'll give it a go. And she came over, and she was absolutely brilliant. She knocked
Wow.
it over, in about an hour or so. And in my opinion, the piano accordion just adds so much to that song. But then, okay, so I got that down, and I don't know if Nikki sang first or after Colleen. I can't remember now, but so Nikki did her bit, came over, and in one session she knocked over three songs, and she sang on My Sister and Me. And Nikki, being the seasoned professional and perfectionist that she is,
Hmm.
did multiple tracks for the chorus. So you'll hear, well, that's all Nikki. Everything, all the vocals here is Nikki, and yeah, it's really good. She she did that song really good.
Yeah, I like how it says, blood runs deep in family, just like my sister and me. I'm glad I've got her company. I'm glad I've got a sister for me. And then it ends off like, my sister and me as thick as thieves. My sister and me as good as can be. Wonderful. And I love the ending. Oh, 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 my sister. I love it. Bruce, great songwriting there. I really, really love that. Um, so what about and I guess your wife was involved in also the music as well, like not just.
Yeah, well, Carolyn has to record everything. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to do any of that. So she does the
Mhm.
recordings, and then she does the mixing and putting the original tracks on. using the music software that we've got and the recording me when I do my bits, etc. So yeah, she's all important. So she is definitely central to the Immaculate Crows lineup.
Yep, we are
If
going
it
to
wasn't for
link that.
Carolyn, there wouldn't be any Immaculate Crows.
We're going to link Carolyn's information. No, just kidding. We're going to link the Immaculate Clothes, all the information, Spotify, and my sister and me down there below. Um, really, really, really appreciated you being on the platform and talking to us. Um, so, yeah, and also the one that you met in the coffee shop who played the ukulele. Did you do you
Yep.
use your harmonica talent as well? Can you play the harmonica with
Yeah,
that
I play any
and the uke at
harmonica.
the same time?
No, I don't use it. You really can't play well using one of those. What would you
Harmonica
call it?
holders.
Um, so yeah, that's called the harmonica holder. Yeah, harmonica holders are only for people that are playing guitar and harmonica at the same time, like Bob Dylan used to do quite a lot. Probably still does. But your harmonica playing won't be as good as it can be if you use your hands. You can't use your hands really while you're using one of those what do you call it, bloody thing, supports or whatever. You got to use your hands to get some of the cupping effects and whatever else, you know.
Yeah. So, have you ever gotten any negativity about your music, like saying I don't like it? What mostly you get are good comments, I guess. You give you
Very rarely, Chris. Yeah, very rare. When Van Gogh came out, there was a musician who I won't name, but did look them up to see what they're on about. They just put one comment. It was just I think there was someone chatting about it or something or other, and he put a comment that said horrible. That was the only thing he said. So, so I looked him up. I listened to a little bit of his music, and he's a bit like me. He tends to fuse genres together, but he does it with hip hop and country. And so I listened to a couple of his things. Like, yeah, it's not too bad what he does, and it sounds like he's been doing it for a long time. But then I looked at my Spotify stats and I looked at his, and mine were far better. So being a little bit bitchy as I can be sometimes, I did respond to that on my own page. So this guy said I did mention him by name. This guy said song was horrible, and that's the only thing he said. And yeah, and I just said, well, I looked at it, I looked him up, and my Spotify stats are better than his, so let's just leave it at that, you know. So
Wow, you go.
apart from that, I did, yeah, I did have another singer very briefly who I won't mention. Um, there was a few issues with. So that wasn't going to go anywhere. So I did have a teaser video of her doing next song that's going to be coming out that Nikki sings on, Same Old Blues. And basically the way this lady did the song, and she did, but um, to be truthful, she did a brilliant version of the song. Nikki does her own version, which is just as good. But this lady did do a pretty good version of the song. She sort of hammed it up a bit, which I think suited the mood of the song. And yeah, they put that teaser video out, and there's some dickhead over, and so excuse the language, someone over in England thought they'd have I don't know, make themselves look good by trying to be funny at someone else's expense, and he's talking about don't give up your day job, and
Mm.
that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life, and something else, some
Wow.
other sarcastic, nasty things, and
Yeah,
yeah, so I just blocked him and left it at that, you know. But
yeah, I
apart from
mean,
that, to be honest,
yeah.
I can't remember any other negative feedback.
Well, I don't know about you, Bruce, but my fiance at that time. She's no longer in my life. I'm happy for that. Sorry about that. But she caught me. She's a singer. She was really good. And of course, I'm a vocalist. And she caught me singing one day and she goes, "Don't give up your day job." Bruce, I swear I did not sing for 10 years after that because that was one of the most hurtest. I don't know.
Oh God!
Like, that's it. Boom. I was done for 10 years
Have
until,
you ever seen that series on Netflix?
don't
Hmm.
give up your day job. Why?
I was
You
just going
think
to say
why?
to you, have you seen that?
Hmm?
I was just saying, have you seen that series on Netflix called Milk at all?
Oh, oh, you mean the coffee shop one? So, Um, you want some milk? Half of
Um,
that. I
no,
love
this
that
is
one.
the one where he did a terrible critique of a singer, and she took it that badly that she stopped performing, and he feels guilty about it because he listened to a song years later and realised it was really good, and he didn't know why he did a bad critique that
Oh,
made her basically give up, and so he looks her up and buys her a new. He managed to find the original guitar that she used to use and buys it back and gives it to her. And yeah, so he's trying to make amends for the nasty things he said to this
oh,
lady, and that just
wow.
pretty well destroyed her career.
Well, it was actually the coffee shop scene that I liked so much. That was good. So when people ask you like,
Which one was it?
oh, that was season two episode, oh, season two, episode two, where he walks in the coffee shop. It said, um, coffee with milk, and she was kind of talking this kind of strange way. And it was actually it's an interesting scene. It's on TikTok. It's one of
Hmm.
the most viral ones. Yeah. Um, so how would you personally describe your sound if someone comes up to you and say, I like, what type of music do you do? How would you describe it?
Anything I'm capable of doing. Basically, predominantly, I'm a songwriter. It's not a band as such. So,
Mm.
being a songwriter, I really um, don't like to pigeonhole myself into one genre. I like to write across genres, and really, it comes down to what genre is going to suit the song. That's the all important thing. So, the next song will be a cross between jazz and blues, and I guess a lot of the music I've put out to now is you would call alternative. So anyone that's hardcore alternative would listen to that, and they wouldn't listen to it. They might listen to it a couple of seconds and think, "Oh God, what the hell has he done?" But I don't really give a stuff about. I'm really writing whatever I feel I want to write, and whatever medium suits the song is what I'm going to stick with. So if it upsets a few people along the way, well, so be it.
How do you feel about cover songs and Immaculate Crows covering other people's songs? Is that a no or is that a yes?
No, I'll never do that. We
Oh,
used to do it when we were a band. We did when we were first starting off, and we were all a bit raw, and I didn't have that many songs together at the time when I first started the band. We had to resort to doing covers for a period of time, but we didn't. As I started writing songs, and other people in the band contribute every now and then, there was less and less of those. To be honest,
wow. Beautiful stuff. Well,
well, for a start, you got copyright issues and all that sort of stuff.
mhm.
If you're covering someone else's song, I mean, in a recording.
Well, we do have My Sister and Me, and it does resonate with people because, can you have my brother and me, like you said, my sister and me, it could be my son and me, my daughter and me, it could be anything, but it does resonate with you.
Yeah.
I mean, the lyrics, everyone, you should listen to that song, My Sister and Me, and it's a beautiful song. I love the feeling it gets when, like, I have three sisters, three brothers, so it kind of resonates with me because I can say my sister and me, my sister and me, my sister and me. Oh, I have three of them. That's it. So it's great stuff. Um,
Hmm.
so before we end the stream, can you give people upcoming Immaculate Crow musicians out there and people who want to do music, what kind of advice would you give them?
Okay. If you like playing music in whatever shape or form, whether doing cover songs, being a beginner musician, singer, someone wants to do recording, whatever you want to do. I mean, life's too short. I mean, give it a go. Um, don't give up too easily. Like here I am late in my life, where a lot of people were thinking, I should be dead and buried by now. I'm working with these really young, vibrant people, having a hell of a lot of fun and getting some decent songs out there, and there's a lot more to come. So
Hmm.
whatever you're doing regarding music, stick with it. Um, there has to be a very good reason not to stick with it. I mean, if you're going to be an independent musician, get recordings out. I'll tell you now, it's a hard slog. There are so many people making music nowadays. An enormous amount of people that call themselves songwriters or whatever else,
Hmm.
putting out competing recordings. It's very hard. You got to stick in there to sort of get known to any degree. I've been doing this now, as a collective um, scenario,
Hmm.
only literally for a couple of years, and so I'm seeing steady growth. But it takes a while to get to that, and there'll be days where you feel like giving up, and you think no one's listening, or why am I doing this, or whatever else. You'll doubt yourself every now and then, but um, then someone will come along and give you a good review. I've had a couple of them out of the blue, ones that I haven't even solicited. In the past, I've contacted places like a lot of people do, and think, can you review this song or this album, whatever else. But there's one company that's picked up on me recently, and they've done 4 reviews now, and they've all been
Wow.
extremely positive. I'm thinking, how the hell did they even know who I was? So
Right.
obviously, I'm getting my name out there slowly, and yeah, and when you come across one of these reviews, or or someone's occasional nice comment, wherever it may be, it lifts you up and gives you the juice to keep on going. And I'd say to anyone else,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
bound to get critics or people who are just downright bloody nasty, and but that's on them. They can't help themselves being nasty and wanting to bring other people down. Stick with what you like, and if you think you're good, don't sort of sabotage yourself.
Mm.
Be critical, so by all means, but as I am, I listen to things every now and then. I think, oh, I could have done better with that one, whatever. But I've got so many new songs to get out there that I'm not going to bog myself down and think, oh, I'll go back and re-record that one, change such and such, and blah blah. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the content I've released, and there's plenty more to come. So I say to everyone out there, you're producing your own music, particularly as an independent musician. You may not get, or may not want to get a producer working with you, a production company or record company, or whatever. That might necessarily be a good thing, anyways. But
Yeah.
you know, just stick with it. That's all. That's my main thing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to all your songs. A lot of them do. It does remind me of Pink Floyd, Jefferson Airplane, The Smith, Paul Kelly, Black Sabbath. Amazing. Even Santana. Like you're a mixture of all these groups. Thank you, Bruce. Really appreciated this interview. Really awesome.
Thanks,
Any
Chris.
last words?
No problem, mate. No, it's stay cool, and I look forward to seeing the podcast.
Excellent. Okay, everyone. Thank you, Bruce Nielsen from the Immaculate Crows, the mastermind behind all the songs. And thank you, Carolyn, for being part of that and everyone. And we are going to sign off. I'm just going to end the recording here. Bye, everyone. See you, Bruce.
Bye bye.